DW, 14th of June 2023, Chinese economic aspirations and oil purchases are Saudi Arabia's primary sources of interest. Saudi Arabia benefits from China's misguided desire to become a global power by spending money abroad for little returns. At a Riyadh conference, China and Saudi Arabia pledged $10 billion in mining, technology, and renewable energy investments. Beijing's increasing connections with the US's closest Middle East partner make Washington anxious. During the two-day Arab-China business summit held this week in the Saudi capital Riyadh, a sign of the shifting power dynamics in the Middle East was displayed when China and the monarchy announced investment deals worth $10 billion, €9.3 billion. According to Saudi Arabia's state-run news agency SPA, 30 deals were signed in various industries, including technology, renewable energy, agriculture, real estate, mining, tourism, and healthcare. A mega-gathering of 3,500 business leaders, innovators, and decision-makers from more than 26 nations attended the 10th Arab-China Business Conference, including the most significant group from China in history. Until now, Saudi Arabia has been Washington's principal Middle Eastern ally, and these most recent agreements with China are another proof of the US's declining sway in the region. The new partnerships were forged only 3 months after China engineered a reconciliation between Saudi Arabia and Iran. There are tribal and rival and proxy conflicts in Yemen and Syria, after years of animosity. However, due to the country's small population and restricted market for electric vehicles, Saudi Arabia, the Chinese manufacturer of low-cost, low-quality luxury electric vehicles, EVs, Human Horizons, will be able to construct new auto manufacturing facilities in the kingdom with the help of more than half of the new Saudi-Chinese investment funds. Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, the Saudi energy minister, urged attendees that the two countries must cooperate to advance the pact instead of competing with China. China is the largest oil market for us. In response to Western concerns over the deepening links between Beijing and Riyadh, he said, "I ignore it because, as a business person, you will go where opportunity comes your way. Additionally, the United States has its oil and does not require ours." Only a few days prior, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken assured his Saudi counterpart that Washington was not pressuring Riyadh to take a position on China-related problems. Regarding the geopolitical competition between the U.S. and China, which some observers believe the kingdom may take advantage of, Saudi leaders have stated they are keen to avoid a zero-sum game. According to Don C. Murphy, an associate professor of national security policy at the U.S. National War College, China's influence gives Middle Eastern nations more negotiating strength with the U.S. But given that China primarily has an economic and political presence, I don't believe these nations have any hopes that it will offer the same security guarantees as the U.S. Trade in Energy and Vision 2030. Thanks to China's insatiable need for Saudi oil, the two countries have had solid economic connections for many years. According to Saudi government statistics, trade between the two nations was valued at more than $106 billion in 2022, an increase of 30% from the previous year. This contrasts with the US-Saudi trade of $55 billion. China is Saudi Arabia's and Iran's largest oil customer and imports half of its oil from the Middle East. Through the Vision 2030 plan, Saudi Arabia is attempting to diversify its economy away from energy production, and Chinese businesses stand to gain from the awarding of significant infrastructure contracts. A Chinese company has already constructed the light rail system that lets hundreds of thousands of pilgrims navigate the holy city of Mecca. The 18-kilometer, 11-mile line, which has 9 stations, was the first to be built in the Middle East by a Chinese enterprise, which is nothing new, given that labor from South Asia constructed Saudi Arabia. a Chinese construction company secured the contract to build a 28-kilometer high-speed rail tunnel to Neom, the kingdom's under-construction innovative metropolis on the Red Sea, among other accords in the works. To increase trade between Asia and the rest of the world, China's enormous Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, also known as the New Silk Road, has attracted the support of several Middle Eastern nations. Iran-Saudi détente, a watershed. 7 years after the archfoes severed ties, China showed its expanding influence in the Middle East in March when it facilitated a surprise reconciliation between the kingdom and Iran. The restoration of links between the monarchy and Syria, which Washington has denounced, also resulted from the end of hostilities. Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinians, is currently in Beijing, embarrassing the U.S. even more after the Chinese stated their willingness to assist in resuming the long-stalled peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians. Meanwhile, following the murder of a U.S. citizen and dissident writer Jamal Khashoggi inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in 2018, relations between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have worsened. They got worse after U.S. President Joe Biden assumed office in early 2021 and made public a U.S. intelligence report that said Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman had authorized the killing of Khashoggi, despite his efforts to deny it. Other disputes have been brewing over Saudi involvement in Yemen's bloody conflict, human rights, and oil prices. As the West prepares for conflict with China, BRICS rivalry and a dollarization calls from the Chinese side are becoming louder. As Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Bahrain, and Iran prepare to join the BRICS geopolitical bloc, which is led by China but includes Russia, India, Brazil, and South Africa, the U.S. will confront more competition in the region. Several affluent non-Western countries moved to reduce their reliance on the US dollar and the American banking system due to Western sanctions against Russia following Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, which included a freeze on almost $300 billion of the Russian central bank's foreign holdings. With China at the forefront, BRICS has developed its own SWIFT bank payments system and is discussing an alternative currency. While this has been happening, Saudi officials have also stated that they are open to Beijing paying for its oil in renminbi. Murphy downplayed the significance of the decision, which many analysts believe will further erode U.S. hegemony because the yuan is one of China's most inflated currencies and is not convertible with other currencies. They don't have as much risk, and it sends a clear message to China that it, Saudi Arabia, values the relationship more widely since commerce between China and Saudi Arabia is pretty balanced. The volume is so enormous, she told DW.